I would rather accent a painting so that could be its own entity rather than trying to master the decor of someone's interior.
When you look at a picture and you're considering a frame, what are some of the basics that you consider when selecting a frame?
Well, what I normally like to do is, first of all, what theme are we looking at? Is it a painting of a barn, for example? Is it a painting of a railway? Is it a portrait? I look at the theme first, and then based on what I think might go with that theme, I'll try to start from there. And then I start looking at the colors that might match from inside the painting to the framework so that it all works as a whole.
Talking about colors, do you also take into consideration so much the room that it's going in, or do you stick strictly with the color base that's on the painting itself?
That's a very good question. Everybody has their own brand of decor they would want into their homes. But it's almost impossible to accent a painting, in my opinion, with a frame that someone likes but doesn't necessarily match the colors that come off the painting. I would rather accent a painting so that could be its own entity rather than trying to master the decor of someone's interior.
When looking at a painting, or when looking at frames, there's a lot of variables in frames, and one of them is the width of the frame itself. Some are very fat, some are very skinny. Do you align that more with the size of the painting, or do you align it more with the theme of the painting?
I align it more with the size of the painting. Take, for example, if you have a mural, you wouldn't want to line it with a half-inch frame. You would want to get something that has mass that would help to accent either the design or the colors within that painting. So a standard painting of an 18 by 24 or a 16 by 20, I think should have somewhere around 1.5 inch to a 2-inch width frame, as opposed to a 1/4 inch frame or something that's 4 inches. When someone is viewing a painting, especially a really good quality painting, you don't walk into a museum and tap your friend on the shoulder and say, "What a gorgeous frame that is." The artist wants you to notice the work first. The framework is set up to accent the artwork. So I hope I answered your question there.
When thinking about colors, some people say that the frame should be based on the major color scheme, and some people say you want to accent or highlight the accent colors instead of the major colors.
I would rather bring out the underdog colors, the ones that aren't shown prominently within a picture. Such as if I did a painting of a sunset, I wouldn't want an orange frame just because the majority of the sky is orange. And I wouldn't want to use a solid black painting. I would want to use like something that would go in between, like a happy medium, that would accent the picture as a whole. The stark silhouettes, the brilliance of the light of the sun, how it either affects a sunrise or a sunset.
The material a frame is made out of. There's plastics, metal, wood. The woods look like wood. Then you've got the gold base, which kind of looks like a metal as well. What do you see as being some of the major determining factors as to which type of frame composite you would go with?
I would say number one is cost. How much do you want to spend on it? First of all, because you can get a lot of expensive frames if you want to pay the money. It doesn't necessarily equate to quality so much as it is designed for fancy. All frames have their purpose depending on what material they're made out of. So if you have a larger painting, obviously you want a lot more strength. if you have a smaller compact accent piece, the strength really doesn't matter that much. So when determining the material used in it, I would basically go for size. That's just my own personal opinion. How well it's constructed.
Now, in talking about construction, there's a lot of places that people can go and have their frames built to the painting and on the painting themselves. And there are places that have certain standards. Which do you prefer when you look for a frame?
I like the standards best because people tend to take pride in what they do. And especially if you invest in a frame, if you're a buyer of a painting, you would also want to invest in a good quality frame. Something that would last as a family heirloom, something that could be passed down through generations without falling apart. That's what I would go for, is the standard. So, as an example of the right frame, as you can see in here, there's a lot of sky blue, and there is quite a bit of green in here as well. So we have not chosen this frame to accent the sky so much, or the grass, but these grays match the stonework of these old tombstones in Ireland. And I feel because how splotchy the stonework is, this frame also has splotchiness on it too. So again, bringing out the underdog of colors is going to really richly accent this particular piece. So another example that I look for is this particular frame on this ship painting is, again, pulling out some of the golds and khaki colors, but you see how it's bringing out those rich colors where the sun is hitting it most brilliantly on the bowsprit and the front of the ship itself. Some of the sail work here has some of those lighter colors in here. You can see those all through here. So in this particular painting, it was a really good choice, I think. Here's another really good example of what I feel is the right framework. And if you notice how dark this frame is, there are very few darks in this painting here. You see right here under the wing, right here around his head, and just some small pieces here. And I also signed it in black. So sometimes the minimal colors can be really drawn out by making a frame that matches those colors.
Okay, so Paul, can you come up with an example of how you would pick a frame for a particular scene that you might paint?
Absolutely. Take for instance, if someone decided to hire me for a rustic picture. Let's say I was doing a scene of cowboys riding horses. Maybe it's a fall scene of a buck and a doe. I would probably choose a barnwood frame. Something that had the rustic value and that ruggedness. It just kind of goes with the whole theme here.
So, as we close this portion of the interview, what are some final thoughts that you would have for people when they go to select a frame, a good frame for a quality piece such as one of yours?
When it comes to selecting a quality frame for any given piece, I would first of all not settle for your own opinion. I would also ask other people who you might trust to pick out a frame, whether you go to a professional place, and for people who do frames, have them give you some suggestions that you may not have thought of. So just because you think a purple frame might work for a given scene, it may not be the best pick. So always a second, possibly a third opinion. I would go for cost, strength, and aesthetic value is what I would go for.